2026, and I'll call this regular meeting the Barre City Council to order. Councilor Manager, are there any adjustments to the agenda?
None from me.
Council? Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you very much. It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you very much. Council will move on to item 2A on the agenda. This is Resolution 2026-04 in recognition of Music Appreciation Month. I generally have the clerk read that into the record, if you would be so kind.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Certainly. A resolution in recognition of Music Appreciation Month, whereas for more than 40 years, March has been officially designated by the National Association for Music Education as Music in Our Schools Month, encouraging communities across the nation to focus on music education. And whereas music education is part of a well-rounded education for every student as outlined in the Every Student Succeeds Act. And whereas the purpose of this celebration is to raise awareness of the lasting positive impacts of music education in the academic, personal, and professional growth of our students. And whereas musical education shapes the way our students understand themselves and the world around them, allowing for a deep engagement with learning. And whereas Music in Our Schools Month reminds us that school is where all children should have access to music. And whereas music educators, students, and communities throughout Barre City demonstrate the importance of quality music education programs to the lives of young people. And whereas the City of Barre joins our local music students, educators, and communities in celebrating the power of music education. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Barre City Council that the City Council does hereby proclaim March 2026 as Music in Our Schools Month and encourages all residents to celebrate and acknowledge every day, but especially in March, that music education is an essential part of every student's well-rounded education.
Motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? And from those of us who can't carry a tune and can't play an instrument, I just want to thank all of you who do.
This was actually my question there, was what instruments do members of council play? And I guess you're saying none.
None. I don't have a musical bone in my body. I can carry any division problem to 15 decimal points in my head, but I don't have a little like Rain Man in that respect, but I don't have a musical bone in my body, sadly.
Anyone?
Give you the washboard.
Anyone else?
No.
I play
No?
musical instruments.
There we go. What instruments?
So I play several different kinds of recorder, and I sing, and I play with a Baroque, original music Baroque group regularly.
Mr. Deering?
I was blessed to have music in my bones. Started off playing clarinet, moved to trumpet, tuba, sax, piano, string bass. Went to school to be a music teacher, actually, about 25 years ago.
You say.
Got to play in the concert with the Barre City Middle School back December 16th. That was a lot of fun. And April 10th, is it April 10th, Mrs. Seacheck? The concert coming up?
Winooski Valley coming up April 8th. We just finished our Spalding Music Festival with Barre City, Barre Town, St. Monica, St. Michael's unfortunately couldn't make it, but Spalding High School students, we all can join together in celebration of Music in Our Schools Month. And we have our spring concert at Barre City on June 4th. I hope many of you can make it and support. Thank you.
So that's the concert I was talking about. June 4th, sorry, not April 10th. So many dates in my head. So that'll be an amazing concert and at the middle school for Barre City. And we'll have staff members and some others involved. And I'll be playing tuba again to help support those kiddos.
Fantastic.
So it was a blessing and I'm really excited.
Mr. Estrella Castro?
No.
That was quick.
It's very fast.
And from what I hear, you can't hit a baseball.
Vicious
Comes from a
rumors.
good source.
Vicious rumors.
No, none.
Oh, speechless. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, the motion carries. Thank you very much for the time that you spend with kids and for exposing them to music. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for
Fantastic.
organizing this awesome month.
Absolutely. We'll try to make it.
Excellent.
Okay, council, we'll move on to item 3 on the agenda. This is visitors and communications. Anyone wishing to address the council regarding an item that is not on the agenda? Yes, you can come right up.
I know. I'm nervous tonight. Hi, counselors. My name is Kat Allen. I'm a Barre City resident and downtown business owner. I wish my speaking opportunity tonight would have been able to take place after the licensing permitting agenda item. So first, I'd like to establish that my comments are not directed towards our new downtown business partners, but hopefully address our community's downtown economic development and diversity moving forward. Through conversations with other residents and business owners, there's a shared perception that there are too many retailers holding second-class and tobacco licenses within our small downtown, offering the same like products. The document before you, which has been printed out, thank you, Nicholas, is an analysis of the concentration of tobacco and alcohol retail establishments within Barre City's downtown. The document is grounded in my professional background, a review of state statutes and regulations, conversations with state regulatory and enforcement leaders, and analysis of Barre's charter, zoning ordinances, and municipal plan. That research led to a clear conclusion: while alcohol and tobacco businesses are legal and licensed by the state, where and how they locate is a local land use decision. Accordingly, the introduced, proposed, and drafted ordinance within the document focuses on using established land use tools to manage the concentration of these retailers, rather than regulating products or licenses themselves. By expanding land use categories and defining sensitive use spaces such as libraries, schools, and playgrounds, the ordinance establishes zoning standards like distance buffers to guide the placement of new businesses. This approach is legally defensible, supported by precedents in other Vermont communities, and designed to promote healthier, more balanced downtown districts without overstepping state authority. The goal is not to ban alcohol, tobacco, or cannabis retailers. Instead, the ordinance expands categorization for businesses, encouraging diversity in our downtown district while applying standards that are proportional to their land use impacts. Overall, the document aims to prevent overconcentration of high-impact tobacco and alcohol retailers in defined urban districts, protect vulnerable populations without eliminating lawful businesses, support downtown vitality, and ensure the ordinance is legally defensible, clear to administer, and aligned with the city's planning goals. In short, this is a measured, data-informed proposal that gives the city better tools to manage growth, protect community character, and maintain a balanced retail environment. I realize this is a non-agenda topic, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me. I'm also willing to temporarily serve on any committee necessary or stay engaged to see this ordinance through.
Thank you, Kat. And thank you for making the important distinction when you started. I really sincerely appreciate that. So I don't know if you've checked your email, but around an hour ago, I actually referred this to Dave Sitchell, who is the chair of our planning commission. I copied council. I think you were all copied on that. No, I think it's a worthwhile and important discussion, and you raised a lot of points. I thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else under visitors and communications? Yes, ma'am.
Patricia Durrell. I lived here my life. I was born up here on the hill. I see your note from your traffic part but this ain't a traffic park. This is your bike park. I got 3 papers to give you guys to take care of, because I've seen it too much. They are taking those electrical bikes and going in the wrong places in the wrong time and different kind of people. They've got to be changed, because we know that when we were young, we couldn't do that. We had to have a license, we had to have everything for it. I don't see it. I see more problems coming. I took this paper from the library to find out what is going on, what can be do. The law in there is telling you, you've got to have everything in there that you would have when you had a regular bike. They're not doing that. The people around here that even over 12 are doing the same thing. They are going through the city like they would, like a car. No, you're not supposed to do that. That's supposed to be, you're not supposed to be on the sidewalk, you're not supposed to be in the road of the cars. You're supposed to be on your way, they're supposed to. Everything is supposed to be on your bike and on your body, and your license, your plate on your car, your material on your car, your bike, and everything. All that is supposed to be done. That's what's in this paper. I have brought it to you to see if you can change it, get it done, because I reported it last year, did not see anything done. I know the cops can't do anything about it, but they can see it. If they see it like I can see it, they would say they report that part on paper only. Then they can change it and make sure that the people, that the parents and the kids will learn, and from school. Because then we find out if they're going to do it right, they do it. Because I watched your paper right here you brought out for what you're doing on the parking. That's good. But the kids, if they come down through there and the car's parked in the wrong place, they're going to get hit. They almost hit people with them bikes, those electric bikes. And I think that they need to be changed. They need to get that whole thing changed around, put it out on your bulletin boards or anywhere to tell them that they cannot be without their equipment and their license. Because I would have been doing the same thing when I was young. We couldn't come down here and play. So I think that you have to change it. You can take these and find out if you can change it to make it better and see if I can see it, because then I would say, okay. But if it don't change, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to get sued on it. I can see it.
Do you mind if I approach you and grab the papers from
Go
you so I
ahead.
can give them to the council?
Right.
Okay, I
Those-
just wanted to do that real
Yeah.
quick.
Can I ask what is your name again?
Patricia Durano.
Okay, thank you.
I've been here since I was a child and sick when I was a child. But when we were taught to do what we're supposed to do, we did it.
Are these all the same now?
Yep, that's all. I got the original.
Thank you.
The lady that was in the back here, I kept on going, talking to her about it. I want to be here. This
Well-
is where I think it's going to work.
I'm glad you did. That's why we're here.
That's
So
right.
that people can come
Yeah.
and express their concerns. So you've given us a little bit of information that we're going to have to digest.
Yeah,
So
go
do you mind
ahead. I'm just saying
if you could
that-
indulge us with a little bit of time, I would
Yeah.
appreciate
But I
that.
used to walk from here to my school, right down there. And every time we come down, and we had to go back for lunch or whatever, that's what I did when I was a child here. This is my hometown.
Well,
I want to appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else under visitors and communications? Okay, hearing, oh, yes, Mr. Coleman. How are you?
I want to thank and blame my wonderful neighbor here for encouraging me to show up tonight. And I went through some of what she put together, and I'm here in support of it as an idea, but also I would like to read through the paperwork that she put together. I do think though there is an opportunity for our city to think a little bit about what we want the downtown to look like. And in a way to not discourage any businesses to show up, but I do think there is an element at play here where we can design the way our downtown looks. And I think if we have the ability to do so, I think we should. But it sounds like you sent an email about some next steps that have been proposed, and I would like to dive in. I also, yes, want to welcome you guys to downtown. I'm right across the way from you, anything to work with, just a helping hand for here.
Look, it's a worthwhile conversation
Yep.
to have, you know, Kat, and again, thank you for being gracious about it. I think many of us express the same concerns, and sometimes it's not enough to just say, well, let the free market sort it out.
Yep.
Sometimes we have to sort of, guide our own destiny. So we'll have a thoughtful conversation at the Planning Commission, and I suspect they'll bring something forward.
And I'm still in the figuring out where I lie as far as letting the free market sort things out, or how much.
So am I, Pete.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's an exploration of self as well.
I appreciate you coming in, speaking up.
Does the planning commission allow public attendees as well, or is it closed?
The planning, of course. Just to be clear, every meeting, unless it is executive session, every meeting of every committee, every commission is always open to the public. There's always a Zoom link. If it's an in-person meeting, they'll let you know. That rarely occurs. There's virtually always a Zoom link. Yeah, so you're free to participate. Anyone else? Okay, hearing and seeing no one. We will move on to the consent agenda, Council. We're going to approve the minutes, the meeting of 2/17/26. Do you have any licenses and permits to approve? The clerk has none, and the manager has one contract to execute, and that was, I apologize, thank you, that was $45,700 with the Dufresne Group. This contract is for engineering services related to the water main replacement, and that contract was in your packet. Motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. I'm sorry.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Reading through the minutes, when we were discussing the pilot agreement for Down Street, I did not realize that the increasing percentage was the same level as residents at 3.75%. I just thought it was the 2% with the timeline of 10 years.
Yeah. It was 2% with the.
2%.
It was.
With a
That's-
sunset, yeah.
That's typographical error in the
So the minutes, if we could just have that reflect in the minutes.
2% instead of 3.75.
It's 2% instead of 3.75.
And that was for a 10-year period.
Okay,
Correct.
perfect.
Yep.
Then I didn't remember it wrong.
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry, Cheryl.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
No worries.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, the motion carries. Council will move to 4A on the agenda. We'll approve the city warrants, week of 3/24/26. A motion would be in order.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, thank you very much. The motion carries. Ms. City Clerk.
Sure. I just have one point to bring up today. With the election coming up in mid-May, the candidate petitions are due by Monday, April 6th by 5 p.m. 30 signatures of registered voters are required for a candidate. That's it.
Thank you.
Very brief.
That's all?
That's all.
Okay,
That's all we're doing.
sure. And you said the 7th. It was a trap.
No,
Did you say the 6th?
I did not, I said the 6th.
Okay.
I'm very confident on
Then
the
it's,
6th.
then it's my reading
And
ability.
I just turned mine in, so I'm good.
Awesome. Okay, Council Liquor and Cannabis Control Board will be in order. Mr. Patel?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Very good.
You can both come up if you'd like. It's up to you. So we usually ask, just historically, the council's always asked first-time licensees to come in and just introduce themselves, tell the council a little bit about themselves. So thankfully, you won't have to do this next year. It's only for first-time licensees. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I want to address.
And if you want to shamelessly plug your business, you can do that too.
Yeah, I just want to address what she mentioned. We are all about it. It happened to be when we were here at the same time as an approach came in, and she did mention it prior to. There's nothing against it. I'm all about the approach and everything it is. We just follow the guidelines from the state regulation and the town regulation that we do it always. If the town or city has any limitation of a permit prior to purchasing a business or prior to and acquiring a property in a way, then we would definitely be going towards there in a different way. We are largest independent owner in New Hampshire, probably be in Vermont, hopefully by this year as a convenience store or gas station. We are not a franchisee. We are a one family owners that are own couple of locations and happen to be now the last year was the largest in New Hampshire. We've been a great friends with Capital Candy, owner of George. We've been great through it. We know Barry from a long enough when we took over. The location that we're acquiring it at the moment that we're opening up a business, it's been in a long torque for before the flooding happened. The flooding happened, it got paused, and then we redid the contract and everything down the things. But we are always, this is a controlled substance, and we do know very much strict about with the state regulation and the town, and we do always have our own enforcement within it. You can't enter, establish if you are not under 21. You can't even come in, not even shop around, look around, things around it like that. So we are very strict on that. Same thing with the state regulation. We are very much follow all the guidelines they have, and might be the town has an extra or the city has an extra berry. We're happy to implement that in any way that is possible. But this is something, this is the business we are in. This is the only business we are buying it and opening it in. I'm happy to have a furniture store. I'm happy to have a market. I'm happy to have everything. There's nothing against us, but the second class is the only thing we do. That's the only stuff that we know. So every town we go in, it's in every time this in approach. It's not my first time. I happen to be a different town with a different mayor and different councillor there. And we make sure there it doesn't go a wrong way. There doesn't need to be. It needs to be controlled in 110%. And that's what I can assure there. They would follow the same exact thing here.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
So council, Mr. Patel, the location is appropriately zoned. Mr. Patel's application, I believe, is pending. They have been vetted. They have the appropriate local approval, so a motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes.
I thank you for coming in, and I appreciate the comments from the business owners, and I agree. I think we need to study this and make some guidelines, but I also think that it's unfair to punish someone who's already this far down the road with guidelines that don't exist, so.
I mean, I'm happy to be within the meeting and going forward towards it. I'm happy to give my input towards it because I'm actually a New Hampshire Association Grocer Board Director up in New Hampshire. So we do deal with the city and the state up there in the New Hampshire side, that portion of it. We do always go through this kind of adjustment, and I'm happy to be within that part of it. But as I said, it needs to be laid out before somebody acquiring a property. Otherwise, this can be go reverse, because once you have a 200,000 or 300,000 invest in the property by itself, and if somebody's thinking on, so the controlled substance is very tricky wording in a way. If you have a supermarket and you want to sell in a beer or tobacco items, it's a supermarket needs for a community, but that controlled substance license needs to be presented the same exact way as I'm presenting it, you know? So if you have Hannaford coming over or any other bigger establishments, good for a community there needs to be, they have to go to the same exact route. Then it becomes in a way, as she mentioned, do we allow the bigger supermarkets to come in, or then it becomes a tricky, that part of it, because this is the way of doing it, you know, that's the second class needs to grow through the town, municipality, and the state. If they can't do that, for sure, there's a lot of option will cut off. Like furniture store doesn't require a controlled substance license on there. The one with the musical instrument doesn't need that. So there needs to be specified in a way as, and I'm not against it, I'm along with it. If this was known prior on a big board, definitely, yes, we wouldn't even jump into a conclusion, could get to a point to apply position. Then we will just stay back, be like, yeah, this is the limit here, the limit is over, we can't do it.
Fair enough. Any other discussion or questions? Yes, sir.
I just want to say I appreciate you and everything that you've brought to the table this evening. Like, you've really brought some good information and really some level-headed, just concise stuff. Not saying that anything else wasn't level-headed or concise, but really just appreciate your insight into everything and just being willing to work with the community and being a partner.
Yes.
So, thank you.
More of that is, we do also, giving a topic on that, it's what becomes in Massachusetts is one of the example. I'll give it to you there. There is a controlled substance license amount. You can get it only. So if the town has 10, you can only have 10. Those license pricing becomes 4 times extra. Why? Because it's valuable as that amount, because you can't get an extra one. So there is a lot of factor towards this. There's a lot of things work along with it. It's just not become we can control it as a 50 license, for example, or 25 or whatever number it is. Could be anything. But after there, every license holder has a value for that license because you can't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are regulated by the state of Massachusetts and not local municipalities. There's a per capita calculation.
Can you come to the microphone?
Yeah, you have to,
Yeah.
they can't hear you on the Zoom
Thank
if
you.
they.
Sorry,
No.
originally I was researching per capita caps on regulated substance licenses, and it is not as legally defensible in Vermont as leveraging land use classifications as supported by Act 250. Where because we are specifically both a designated downtown and a 250-acre community, we have special land use categorizations that can be used. And the proposal before you is also only for urban centers 1, 2, and 3, some of which already have conditional licensing, but this is establishing conditional use permits within our 3 urban centers. And I do want to say my intent of coming today, and I think why I'm so nervous, is my intent was not for you all to deny the license this evening. The building looks beautiful, and we had a lovely conversation prior to council beginning this evening. Really, my suggestions before you have taken a lot of research professionally. I work with state level regulatory agencies and advise on new software implementation and policies that they adopt as those jurisdictions modernize over time. And so I felt like I had a unique knowledge base to start the research on this endeavor, and it is 100% not something personal against any one business. It's looking at the diversity of businesses within our downtown sector.
Oh, Kat, first of all, you don't need to be nervous. Okay, relax. Take a breath. Take a little breath. No, because what we're demonstrating here tonight is that people can have competing interests and still respect each other and still get along. And that's what I'm taking away from this. We've seen a lot of things go sideways lately, and I'm grateful that this conversation is based in respect. So thank you both for that.
I'm all within that part of pushing it towards, I'm just putting an approach towards what would cause to doing that, what would cause of having that, and I understand that exact portion. Like the way you said, this controlled substance with the beer and wine, it's a different category than being alcohol. Alcohol as a separate way of doing it. That's our very controlled license. They don't give it out another alcohol business within that radius of mile. They look at the per capita, how many people are there, how many, the state has that regularly. But this as a beer and wine and tobacco, that is more of any convenience store, gas station, supermarket, regular store, anybody can apply that. Even a furniture store can have that because it's as open as that. And the liquor is very controlled. They won't give it out another liquor license to within a 5 miles radius. That is very controllable.
In the state of Vermont, it's slightly different. It's based on whether or not the liquor control warehouse can actually successfully manage deliveries between the varied warehouses. I talked to the director of liquor licensing as part of my research.
Thank you. Council, any further discussion or questions, council? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. Liquor Control Board and Cannabis Control Board is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you,
top
Mayor.
that.
I will
And
keep-
you're welcome to stay for the entire meeting, gentlemen. We understand if you don't.
I will be brief because we have a first reading warned for the ordinance, but and since we were here last week, so I don't have all that much more to report. One thing we did hear from the state Agency of Human Services about the changes in the general assistance program that come up. The winter coverage, the expanded emergency services end on March 31st. So beginning April 1, the standard program rules apply, which means that participants of the program have 80 nights in the program, and that's 80 nights from July 1, 2025, and that is capped statewide at 1,100 hotel rooms. The nights, just for reference, the nights that are used between December 1 and March 31st do not count toward the 80 limit, but we were notified that in the Barre area, AHS expects 22 households consisting of 35 individuals total to be exited.
Did you receive that report, council?
Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I thought you did. Okay.
Yeah, and so we don't, we cannot, the one thing we don't know is the number of children. That number is suppressed because of the count is below 12, and so it's suppressed for privacy. So just an update, that'll be something hitting here in the next week, when March 31st, next week at the council meeting, actually. Our grant work continues. Janet's been very, very busy. I think I mentioned last week, we've been working on conditions for the CDBG-DR grant. That continues. That's a sort of an ongoing work stream for us. And then we, on buyouts, a little bit more concrete, we have 3 scheduled for the end of April now, on April 27th to be precise, 2 homes on Scampini Square, which, Janet, not to put you on, I think that ends Scampini Square area, those 2, I'm pretty sure that we're done there. And then one of them on Harrington Avenue, which is also really important as part of our debris recs project. So now we will have 2 out of the 4 on Harrington Avenue will have been closed by that point. Maybe have another one on that date, hopefully, if we're lucky. So that's that continues to happen. That the state has taken on a lot of that work, but now when we get to the crunch period, that does bring in some additional workload to Janet's office. But we are always very, very happy to go get these buyouts closed because these folks have been waiting for several years now for this to happen. And sort of a preview for an upcoming council meeting.
Tess, we don't shut the door,
Close
Tess.
the door. Thank you, Tim.
Excuse me. We attended a crime research group presentation here at the City Council chambers. This is a group that came in to share some data with us, the police department, fire department. Really interesting work that they're doing. They're looking at hotspots in the area, in the city. They're looking at trends that will help us moving forward. We're looking forward, we're going to get them scheduled for a city council update, so stay tuned. We're looking at sometime one of our April meetings where they will be coming to do that presentation and share with the public the information they shared with us. They'll obviously have to redact some of it, but I think the trend data is really interesting. And then just finally, for the public and also for members of the council, the committee reappointment process is gearing up next month. As you know, all the appointments have an end date of June 30th. And so we start to do the reappointment process. We have several openings. In fact, for people who want to weigh in on tonight's discussion, there's going to be at least 2 seats on the Planning Commission that are open. So we encourage members of the public, members of the council, if they know members of the public who would be good fits on those committees, to encourage those applications to come in. I know, like I said, Planning Commission for sure, and the Planning Commission will be dealing with the conversation we talked about just now. Also, the DRB has some openings, which is a quasi-judicial board. They have some real implications on development in the city, in addition to the other committees that also meet and have spaces. So just keep an eye on that. We kicked that off with an ad in the paper. We'll put it up on our website, and we'll start soliciting applications, and then we'll start going through the interview process. So that's it for me.
Questions, council?
Yes. Follow up on that last, would it be possible to share with council a list of what
Yes.
openings we expect?
Absolutely. I can get that to you tomorrow. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Council will move on to 8A on the agenda. This is the first reading warned for 6:15. We're a little bit behind. This is our public nudity ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor, and the police chief has joined me to help answer any questions that may come up on this. We had a person who operates a nude taxi cab in St. Albans started making some inquiries about operating a similar business in Barre City. It was our judgment at the staff level that perhaps this was something that might be worth getting ahead of. And so we didn't have to look too far. We looked to Burlington, and Burlington enacted an ordinance. I think they had different issues happening there on the nudity front, but certainly the ordinance that they enacted worked for Barre City. So really, that's it. I think the ordinance I think it speaks for itself. It defines a public indecent exposure. It defines public place, and it basically prohibits indecent exposure in a public place. It has some allowances for obviously what people do in their own private homes. It has allowances for young children. It has allowances for, I believe our neighboring municipality has a naked bike ride, which, I don't know, naked and bike ride sounds pretty dangerous to me, but that's, if something were to happen in Barre, that could be a permitted event. Treasurer Dawes was kind enough to remind me that in another section of ordinance, we prohibit, if there is a nudity event, the performers and the audience have to be 3 feet apart, so we already have that covered. So this really fits in nicely with the other infrastructure of nudity ordinances that we have in the city. And I think that's about it. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Questions, council?
I'm helping.
Well, look, my only observation, when the chief and the manager briefed me on this, my only observation was it's winter, so you might want to get ahead of this before summertime. I mean, we've gone 200 years without a public nudity ordinance, but hey, yes.
First time for everything. The original request was for whatever a nude taxi service is. I'm not going to be Googling it, but
Not on your work computer like
nope.
I did.
I have no objections, first of all, to this ordinance, but it does not seem like this ordinance would cover a taxi, because that would be deemed a private place, unless I'm misunderstanding the definition of public.
It does cover the taxi. That, as defined as a public place, that individual would be operating in the public place. Individuals who would assume they're getting a taxi service would be exposed, no pun intended, to that.
So the interior of the taxi, because it welcomes and seeks out members of the public, would therefore be considered a public place. Thank you, I understand.
And just to add to that, I think it would be captured, I think, under exposures not necessarily or customarily expected is some of the language that would sort of get at that, or where an individual would not reasonably be expected to be observed by members of the public, et cetera. So,
Councilor Spaulding, you had a question?
No, I just have there's a typo.
Oh, the VSA?
No,
I found a VSA.
Yeah, is it the VS under D, enforcement?
I found the VSA under authority I found, I may have
It says
another one.
VSS and it should say VSN.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, there's an extra F in the second to the last line. It says,
Oh,
shall be
yep.
waived upon a successful completion of a restorative. So just an
Thank you.
extra F there. Yeah, no, I'm in support of this, so.
So, council, the appropriate motion would be to deem the public nudity ordinance having been read its first time and move to a second reading and adoption.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thanks for coming in, chief. Council, we'll move on to item 8B on the agenda. Representative Wazazak. I'm expecting Councilor Booton as well. He actually.
Councilor Booton. Councilor Booton hasn't been
Representative Booton as well. Old habits
Yes.
die hard. He actually gave us a heads up.
Yeah,
You
we were on the
held late.
floor. We were on the floor for about 6.5 hours today, and it was supposed to be our shortest day of the week. So I also believe that Representative Booton is on the way, and understand why you passed that ordinance, but my re-election kickoff may look slightly different. Thank you.
Thank goodness.
We've still got a couple more readings to go, Representative.
Never say never. Yeah, so forgive me, as it has been a very long day, followed by a very long week last week. Happy to chat, happy to answer questions, happy to point out a couple, I have a couple Barre-specific notes here that I can chat about quickly and then answer questions if that works for you, or
Perfect.
I know Maggie is also on Zoom and is available for questions. So a couple big ones that I know we've been talking about. First off is the homelessness bill that's working its way through the House, and specifically money for Tess Taylor's position. The bill number is 938, and the state budget has, and that bill and the state budget has included a total of $500,000 for municipal grants to be used at the discretion of the municipality. So everyone I've talked to, my understanding is that, and you know, the municipal grants, when we say municipal grants in relation to the homelessness crisis, is targeted at certain communities. It's not targeted in legislative, language, because that gets really complicated, but everyone in the building knows we're talking Barre, Burlington, Rutland, St. Albans, et cetera. So everything that I'm seeing indicates that that money would be eligible to be used for the Housing and Homelessness Liaison position. And Senator Perchlik on the Senate side is aware of this need and has his eye out. So if the budget, of course, still has to go through the Senate. So if we find out that for some reason language needs to be tweaked to make that an eligible use, very confident that our three senators are aware of this and will make sure that that continues as we think it's continuing now. Another big one is the refund to Barre City for overpayment. We overpaid the amount of money into the Ed Fund because of our TIF district. We got for about 8 years, and Carol knows the specifics better than I do. We basically did the first 4 years of refund last year. This year, we have the second 4 years of the refund totaling $150,000. That is in the yield bill as passed by Ways and Means, the committee I sit on, and will be passed through the House. Second reading on the yield bill is tomorrow. So that money, once we get the yield, again, still has to go through the Senate, be signed by the governor, but that money is in there as well. And of course, a big one is the state of the transportation fund. I live right off of Main Street. We all drive these roads. The transportation fund is in dire straits. We're at risk largely because of reduced revenue from the gas tax, with the rise of electric vehicles and hybrid, work situations. We're just generating significantly less gas tax revenue than we used to, although the war in Iran seems to be helping with that a little bit at the moment. So I think it's in the miscellaneous tax bill, which we passed, we have adjusted, I won't get into the weeds. We've adjusted a formula so that more money will be going into the transportation fund at the tune of around $10 million a year, which is what the governor asked for. We're just doing it in a slightly different way so that that's a permanent change and not a one-time change. Still a long way to go in terms of the T fund. But, in my conversations with Matt Walker, who's the chair of the Transportation Committee from Swanton, have made it known that we are looking at at least the second time, we've had to spend municipal money on what is a state responsibility. And the state is not living up to its responsibility to maintain the roads in Barre City right now. And I've made that very clear. So was glad that we were able to make that change, even though, like I said, there's a long way to go. Last thing is this year's flood bill has gone slightly under the radar, which has been fine by me. The approach we've taken and look to take into the future is to have, we have a miscellaneous tax bill every year, a miscellaneous education bill every year. We're looking to have a miscellaneous disaster response bill every year because we learn more with each season that passes. With successes and failures of any disaster recovery event, we learn. And we want to be able to have a mechanism to adapt to that every year without having to go through, a whole new mechanism every year. So two things that are in there now that are in this year's miscellaneous disaster response bill. One is a ready response grant program for municipalities to strengthen their emergency response systems. Quite frankly, I think that is not a program that will help Barre very much, mostly because Barre's kind of the poster child for what good ready response. We've learned it, Our emergency response team in Barre City is among the best in the state. So that grant money is intended to help other communities level up to where Barre is. And then there's also money to strengthen communications between municipalities and residents in the event of a disaster response. I'm not sure whether that's something the manager would be interested in putting money towards like getting more folks to sign up for regroup or strengthening that technology. That's TBD. And again, I think the language is delightfully vague in that case so that we can, sort of use it for what we need it to be used for. So those are the big pieces. And then of course I could talk about education transformation until midnight, but I won't do that unless you have questions about it. So those are the pieces that are top of mind that I have prepared for today, and happy, of course, to answer any questions. I just missed a call from Representative Booton, which makes me think he's on his way.
He is. He just texted me too.
Oh, did he text?
He did.
Okay.
On his way.
No, we understand, lady. Maggie, anything you want to add or comment on?
Yeah, well, I think Teddy did a great job covering those pieces. The only thing that I will add, we were working on a provision in the Senate to address the Dix situation with fishing tournaments. There's a bill S-224 that's being considered in Senate Natural Resources that had language that would have given a governing body, municipality, veto authority over tournaments on drinking water sites. There was, and there has been immense pushback from various stakeholders. We have wound up with a compromise position. I think it's still acceptable. It's not everything that we wanted, but very rarely these things are. So instead of veto power, the bill would keep decision-making authority with the state. But if it's a drinking water site, then Fish and Wildlife has to check in with the Drinking Water and Groundwater Division before issuing the permit. Organizers must notify the municipality, and for larger tournaments, the state must post public notice. And then I think really importantly, if it's approved on a drinking water source, the organizer will be on the hook for paying any costs incurred to the municipality, including around enforcement. So trespassing folks would be included in that cost. That provision is still in the originating committee, Senate Natural Resources, chaired by Senator Watson, who's done a great job shepherding this. There are other issues with that bill that have nothing to do with this provision, but we still see a path forward for our compromise. So I'm feeling positive about the outlook for that piece. And then the Barre Charter update is, so just as a reminder, this would let the city manager or council authorized member sign property sales or leases, and increases the fund balance from 5% to 10%. And the charter was taken up for the first time last week. There aren't the same deadlines associated with charter changes, so we haven't missed any windows. There looks like there's positive reception from the committee. Nicholas gave some testimony. Representative Booton presented the bill. There were some simple questions, clarifying questions, but it doesn't appear to be, it's certainly not controversial. I don't see any issues getting that through. So I think we'll be shepherding that through the House over the next couple weeks and then doing the same in the Senate. And then last piece, this is something just been really that I'm just observing. I know it's something that Barre City cares about, but it's not high on the list of priorities for action and really hasn't required much because this is being led by the state's attorneys. This is H410. It's a recidivism bill. So right now it only counts as recidivism if someone goes back to prison. This bill would change it so it would count if someone is convicted of a new crime. So if someone reoffends and gets probation or a short sentence, it would still count toward recidivism. Again, this hasn't required any input from us. The state's attorneys are doing a great job with this. It is, I believe it's passed the House now, or it's just about to, heading to the Senate, and we'll still be keeping an eye on that. So if there is need for us to weigh in or desire, then we can do so. Those are the pieces that I will leave it at.
Thank you. Yes.
I have two things. First, a brief question for Maggie to follow up in the S-2224. Would the originator or the license also be responsible for environmental damages? Say a boat capsizes and contaminates our drinking water with fuel. Would they then also be responsible for paying for that cleanup or just for the trespass and things?
No, I believe that's included, but I want to double check. Can I get back to you on that?
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
I think that is included, but I would like to double check.
Yeah, could you copy all of us on that, or just copy
Absolutely.
Nicholas and he'll get it to it, because I had the same question, Maggie. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Did you have two?
I do. My second question is for Representative Wozniak. Thank you for advocating for the homelessness and housing liaison position. That's crucial to Barre City's work here. And I wanted to know if you had a general update on sort of processes for a larger system fix.
Yes, oh goodness, what's the bill number? I will send you the bill number. Yes, so there is the larger homelessness bill that's being advanced right now. We were just talking about it on the meeting I was on, and I'm just blanking on the number. Has about $82 million for homelessness response, which is what the governor recommended for this year. What the bill will do, in very broad terms, is place limits on the number of hotel rooms that are used in any given year, while significantly scaling up shelter capacity around the state in a tiered system. So there would be, low barrier shelters, which would be very similar to like what the Good Sam model that we've had in the city forever, where you need somewhere to stay overnight, the shelter opens, you stay there overnight, you leave in the morning. There would then be structured shelters, which would be meant for slightly more long-term and have stronger case management staffing. And then a third tier of shelters, which, to be clear, would not be what your mind conjures when you hear a shelter. The third tier would be for those, folks who have severe medical disabilities, et cetera, and there would be good long-term support for those folks. So the approach the bill takes is to create a more structured, more tiered shelter system with significant investments in case management and social services, because I think we can all agree with the imperfection of the hotel program. One of the key imperfections of that was that it basically gave folks a roof over their head and nothing more. There was not good social services, there was not good case management. So, the legislature, and, TBD as to where the bill goes when it gets to the Senate, but the legislature and the administration were, pretty well aligned this year of, shelter's not enough. You need more than just shelter when you're facing chronic homelessness. It's about access to, job opportunities. It's about access. It's about consistent access to food, transportation, so you can get to your medical appointments, et cetera. So there would be, like I said, that tiered system of shelter with a significant investment in social services and case management. Because, folks who, many of the folks who are living on the street are doing so through no fault of their own. And, as a youth who was formerly homeless, you're just in survival mode when you don't know where you're going to sleep that night. So the goal is to say, okay, we're going to have a consistent place for you to go get help and have, I know Tess Taylor, when she's talking to the council all the time, emphasizes the need for stability in relationships too for folks who are dealing with homelessness. You know, we don't want to be shuffling them off from one case manager to the next week after week. We want one consistent person there to help them get access to services and provide that case management. So that's the approach that bill takes. Oh, good, I vamped long enough.
Did you have a question, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, now you have a very sweet, soft voice, so you'll need to speak up a little bit, okay?
I think I've not seen it, but I have several places. Burlington did something. I think it needs to be brought down in every little town or every city, because they got the history to put them in a little house, you got them for their medical, and you got them for their fees. Get this down here too.
Yep.
Not just, I want to go talk to our governor to tell him, he did it up there, do it where he knows it's gonna be done. I know because I've had a family on the street. I don't know where he is, but if he can live in a little house like they have in Burlington, I'd be pleased. Get this stuff down here, not because it's Burlington. Bring it down everywhere.
And what was your name?
Patricia Durano.
Patricia, nice to meet
And
you.
I'm saying that when I was young, we were with our family, yes, but now it has changed. We gotta bring these things that Burlington has done. I've seen it so good. I think it needs to be brought everywhere.
Yes, no, fully
If you guys
agree.
can get that done, I think I'd see something different. I just gave them something that needs to be done. It will help everybody.
Fully agree, and I think that's the role of the state, right? Is Chittenden County, it's bigger, and there's more money up there, and it's our job to
Chittenden
make
County
sure,
here, too.
yes, that it's getting to Barre and to
Yeah,
Rutland and to
everywhere,
St. Yep,
Rutland,
absolutely.
Johnston, whatever one you can get it into. It can be done. Those little houses are very good. Even if it's a hard time to get them, they can get them in here.
Those are the
Absolutely.
pods on,
And not-
Absolutely.
Not because they put them in a place, put them where they know that it's gonna work with the hospital, doctors and everything like that. That's what needs to be done.
Fully agree with Patricia, and Maggie reminds me that the bill number is 938, H 938.
Thank you.
Patricia, are those the pods you're talking about?
Yes, they were, I've seen them.
I know
on TV,
firsthand
and they
about
do
those.
good. Even the thing that's being done here, anywhere, those things need to be brought everywhere, they need to, for the people that are on the street. I've seen it, I know what's going on.
I agree with you.
Representative Booton. How are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Doing great. Thank you.
Wow, it's a long day today.
Tomorrow's going to be worse.
I know. And it will be later too, which is great. So last week I spoke before the House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs regarding 902, which is the charter change for signing authority to and the increase in what we can keep in reserves. Error informed the committee that Nicholas was on vacation for 3 months. Do apologize for that.
3 months, 3
We'll
weeks.
send it now.
There was a request for the official vote tally. I had emailed Cheryl, and she sent it to me, and I sent it off to BL Coffin, who will likely be the presenter of the bill. 642, which is, and this is bills regarding judiciary that I'm going to go through. An act relating to youthful offender. We had a couple of these go through judiciary anyway. It made some modifications to the youthful offender law. One of the things that the bill did, which is really good, it allows a victim to have a say in whether or not a person can be processed through youthful offenders process. I did submit an amendment to raise the age. It failed. That legislation passed in 2018, but unfortunately didn't pass, or the amendment wasn't appealed. Act 49, did we talk about Act 409, which is the appeals and orders denying bail revocation? No. Okay, so that was passed in January. The highlight of it is the bill allows for prosecutors to actually appeal bail revocations. For those that don't know, bail is a constitutional right in the state of Vermont. So that bill did allow for appeals to a higher court for bail revocation. It's also vice versa. If the for the defendant. Act 410, which is an act relating to the calculation of recidivism and other related criminology measures. This is going to be really, oh, you did talk about it? Okay.
Maggie talked about that one.
Oh, she did. Oh, good job, Maggie. All right. Then there's Act H660, which is an act relating to fiscal year 2027 opioid abatement special fund appropriations. This is actually a really, there was a lot of great stuff in it, but there were two things that I really liked about it. One, the $1.6 million for recovery houses. For folks that haven't had an opportunity, we actually have a recovery house right across the street from the Justice Center. Highly recommend that you go to there and speak to the folks there. But there was $1.6 million allocated, and then there was $288,000 that was allocated to Elevate Youth Services to support the creation of a low-barrier drop-in teen center here in Barre. The Elevate Youth Services work with young folks ages 12 to 24 who are navigating housing instability, family conflict, substance use, mental health challenges, and social disconnection. They're actually looking to co-locate at the library, so that'll be really great. I'm not on the fund committee with Teddy, the Ways and Means. I'm sure he had lots to tell you. Want to talk about the T-bill?
Yes, I did talk about the
Oh,
T-bill.
you did? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm on, as folks know, I'm on Commerce and Economic Development. Doesn't have a lot of intersectionality with municipal government. We could always talk about the data privacy bill, which is 211. Probably not what you'd want to talk about, the coercive debt. There's non-competes, the sister state program, which is pretty cool. I kept on thinking about our sister city over in Italy, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Bijou.
Huh?
Bijou.
Thank you. And education, technology, and franchise bills that went through. One that may have interest for folks is H512, an act relating to regulation of event ticketing markets. That kind of applies given the fact that we are in the same building as the Opera House. What that basically does is it caps resale of tickets to 110%. So if you go to Ticketmaster or StubHub, I went to, I think it was StubHub, and the Book of Mormon, which is playing up at the Flynn, on their site was $600. But if you go to the Flynn, the actual Flynn website, it's $100. So most people are going to go to StubHub, they'll see that, and they're not going to pay $600. So it hurts the venues that are doing these events, which is not good for us, obviously. But that did pass. And then, of course, I can talk about H632, which is a real frustrating point for me. 632 was the miscellaneous environmental changes that came out of the environmental committee. They spent hours and days on that bill. Just having testimony. A&R spent hundreds of hours on that bill. And one of the biggest things that everybody says, no surprises. And I thought that I should not have a surprise, and I submitted an amendment that would have been extremely beneficial for Prospect Heights. It would have given us 20 to 30 more houses on Prospect Heights. $6 million worth of grand list, minimum. And I submitted that amendment, and the bill died. And it's very similar to what happened in the Senate last year. We talked about that while we were here, and it literally killed the bill, just like it did in the Senate. It's really unfortunate. I actually have a meeting with the speaker about it tomorrow because I am infuriated that happened. That bill would have been beneficial for Barre, and I'm not sure what the reasoning was behind that, but it was a terrible reasoning. I know that Maggie, did you speak about the Dicks? Okay, in that case,
Yes,
I'm
I
off.
did.
Questions, council? Yes.
So we had all gotten a legislative alert from VLTC regarding the local options tax and how the state was going to be using $3.41 million from the surplus to pay for the state's per parcel reappraisal and equalization payments. Can you speak to why, any insight as to why they did that and why they're also going to allocate an additional $3.41 million for next year's fiscal year, for fiscal year 27 budget?
You lost me on the second half. The fiscal year 27 budget.
Yeah. They're proposing to put that as well in, so an additional $3.41 million.
I do think that there's been an element of VLCT getting their wires crossed. I talk to them, I work with them very closely. I think they've gotten their wires crossed in a little bit. Basically what we're doing is, as the governor recommended in the governor's recommended budget, is using $1 million of pilot surplus to give assistance to towns for grand list maintenance and the new reassessment system that will be put in place as part of Act 73, because, as Carol and other clerks around the state can tell you, the money that we get for reappraisals from the state is not enough.
Right.
And so that was part of a bill called the miscellaneous tax bill, which we're voting on tomorrow, that $1 million. That was part of the governor's recommended budget to assist with things like that, coming from what is currently around a $15 million surplus in the pilot fund from local options tax revenues. I've been consistent in saying that I think that that surplus should be either returned to the towns from which the dollars originated, or used for a purpose that benefits all municipalities. In my view, this use of that pilot money falls into that second bucket of something that benefits all towns, because when we have good grand lists across the state, that's something that benefits the statewide grand list, and that's something that benefits our education fund, which directly impacts all of our property taxes. Some of the money included in that 3.4 has already been in allowable use of the pilot fund. There's always been pilot fund money used for some of this stuff, and we basically just raised it as the governor asked us to. And it's important to remember that even after that money is out the door, there will still be significant surplus in the pilot fund. So truthfully, it was not my favorite thing, but it was part of a 40-page bill that had a lot of other good stuff in it. So I did vote for that. But that's the rough.
So there's 12 million in the surplus for the pilot fund, correct?
Around there, yeah. It's between 10 and 15, depending.
Have you guys taken up the T fund, or the T transportation bill?
Yes, we've passed the miscellaneous transportation bill.
Okay, and that one also had information about the pilot?
Yes, and that came out because, so the transportation bill, the miscellaneous transportation bill that came to Ways and Means had an additional, I think, $2 million coming from the pilot surplus. And they said, well, hey, you just gave the governor the $1 million that he wanted. We want $2 million for the transportation fund. And we said, all right, before we create a run on the surplus, we went along with this because the governor wanted to, let's take a beat. So we were supposed to have a 3-hour hearing about the pilot surplus today, but we were on the floor for 7 hours, so that didn't happen. But it is an active conversation.
Here's a thought. Is it possible that you guys could possibly float the idea that these pilot surpluses, that towns like Barre, that maybe we could get some paving done out of it?
So,
leverage it. This is money our community's bringing in. We're using it to better other communities. And it's kind of the same thing, that other community members are driving through our area, and maybe we can get a little chunk of that pie too.
I think the T bill did have that, though. Wasn't that
it did, and that's what I just spoke about us pulling out, because we did not want to create a run. And we, like I said, we just transferred that $10 million to the transportation fund, which will help. I sponsored legislation last year that would have returned all the money to the town. So
I remember we talked about it.
Right. Very fully sympathetic, very much agree with you. And again, the budget still has to go through the Senate, and then I'm sure there will probably be a conference committee. So, as I said, I don't feel that the state is fully owning its responsibility to the roads. And that's, that's definitely true in Barre, but it's not true just in Barre. It's a statewide problem. So definitely fully agree with you on like, it's been such a hard budget year. But there is some money sitting there. So like, I fully believe that we're in a time of crisis, whether it comes to our roads, everything from our roads to our social services right now are in a time of crisis. And I don't feel that we should be unnecessarily sitting on any state funds that could be deployed to help our communities. So short answer is I'm with you and yes.
Sure. So if there's any way you can try to get them to advocate some of that money toward paving some of those streets or putting off till 29 or 30.
Totally.
That would be great, because if they're already going to move monies to transportation for one reason or another.
Right.
I mean, this is our money.
And we talked, in last year's flood bill, just another point about the pilot surplus, was the municipal grand list stabilization program, which reimburses I know we've already benefited from that program, reimburses municipalities for the lost property tax revenue from flood bought out properties that went through the FEMA process. And I think that's a great example of using the pilot surplus to benefit, and that will benefit,
Certainly.
More than just Barre. So absolutely, I'm with you.
Thank you both.
Yes.
Sorry. Representative Booton, is the amendment you mentioned earlier the same one that was proposed to reduce the wetlands barriers significantly in new construction sites?
The buffer.
But
That's
wetlands
correct.
buffer, yes, the wetlands
Correct.
buffer. I just want to go on
The
record
governor currently has in his executive order.
that I believe was ruled not able to be judged by executive order. It's a legislative fix that would have to go through. And I just want to say again, as I've said at council previous, I am vehemently opposed to that.
Okay.
I think that we flood in Barre City, which I'm sure you know, and wetlands are an important part of soaking up extra water. I don't think gaming, I am fully on board with the work we've done to increase housing in Barre City, but it is an extraordinarily short-sighted solution to destroy some of the natural barriers that take up extra water in a flooding event in favor of short-term solutions.
Sure. So A&R was
Opinions
supportive.
vary.
And I'm sharing mine.
A&R was supportive of it. So, I mean, well, I mean, they're not supportive of dredging, and I am, so.
Yes.
Counselor. Representative Wozniak, you said you could talk until midnight about education, but I won't hold you to that. Could you just give us a brief, like, where are we? What's the latest? Because, we're all wondering what's going to happen.
Yep. Yes, so hot off the presses, the education, as it was last year, the education transformation conversation, whatever you want to call it, is exempt from legislative deadlines. So, nothing passed by crossover last week, but that really doesn't mean anything for education. So the education committee, my understanding is they're currently working on language that would not force mandatory mergers, but would force all of the existing supervisory unions and supervisory districts to enter into regional conversations about shared regional services. It takes a slightly more aggressive approach than the redistricting task force. Basically, the redistricting task force worked over the summer. They came back and said, we don't think mandatory mergers will work. We should do voluntary mergers. The legislature has said, all right, that's really not good enough. That's not going to get us where we need to be. I think everyone here remembers Act 46 and that it did not work for our community. So I have not read that legislative language yet because they're still working on it. But that's how it's been explained to me, that they're going to force there's 7 regions that they are talking about. They're going to force all the unions and districts in those 7 regions to have conversations amongst themselves about where shared services could be identified, where costs could be cut that way. Admittedly, I'm very skeptical. I think that, forced mergers have a lot of drawbacks. I think leaving things to be voluntary also have a lot of drawbacks. And, I think that it's a slightly glib way to say it, but when you do things voluntarily in a system that we currently have now, 2 rogue school board members on 1 school board can blow up the entire process in terms of whether or not they agree to sharing services. My guiding star, as I've said here before, if Act 73 as written were to go into effect regardless of where school district boundaries, regardless of forced or voluntary mergers or any more mergers, period, Act 73 would bring in $2,000 more at least per student for Barre City. Barre Unified Union School District, and reduce our property taxes by hundreds of dollars per household per year. And so that's been my guiding star. I frankly I don't want to say I could care less. That's too glib even for me. I'm less attached to whether we do things in a voluntary, regional, or forced merger system. Those are the outcomes I want. And the other thing that has frustrated me with the education transformation conversation is very, very well-meaning of my colleagues have expressed that their communities are doing well right now. Their school budgets pass, their kids are getting what they need. And it's the Brigham test that we talk about, the equal access to education in Vermont. We got into the current system because in 1997, the Supreme Court found that we did not have equal access. I'm waiting for the lawsuit that's coming because you cannot tell me that our kids, as you know probably better than I do, our kids in Barre City are not having an equal access to education as those high spending districts like Burlington, Stowe, and Killington. So those are my guiding stars. I want to remain open because the folks on the Ed Committee and the folks on that task force were the education experts, but I also know that our district cannot wait until 2029, 2030 for the type of relief that would be realized. So there's places like, addressing the healthcare situation, which is one of the main cost drivers of education, implementing a second homes tax while holding rental units harmless, bringing in that more money and moving towards a homestead exemption, which is the mechanism that would bring down our property taxes. All of those are things I think we could move faster on. Many of my colleagues do not share that view. And so that's the position I'm trying to navigate. So I'm remaining open-minded to the language that the Education Committee is going to bring forward, but call it a bad taste in my mouth from Act 46. I'm skeptical as to whether a fully voluntary model could get us there. And I understand the risks, for lack of a better term, that are associated with a solely forced merger approach, right? Like there's pros and cons to each one. But like I said, those two guiding stars, getting more resources for our kids while bringing down our property tax burden in Barre City, those are my two guiding stars. And so regardless of what language we get, I'm going to say, are we getting closer to those goals or not?
Could I just add a quick, I'm sorry. I just wanted to really quickly piggyback on that, Teddy, just to add just a little bit of perspective from the Senate side. Everything, Teddy said is right, but I think it's important to note that the Senate Education Committee is working on a proposal that is forced consolidation by about 50%. So we are looking at two very different proposals, and I don't think anyone who has worked in this space for a long time really sees where the path is. So I think it's still very much TBD how they're going to find any type of compromise.
Yeah, and certainly Teddy and I have discussed this, and we are actually very much on the same page. I'm a little more pro-merge than you are, I think. The foundation formula is the key to stabilizing taxes and providing the services that are needed. We are a receiving district, and I think that, that will certainly make a huge difference in the education realm in the state of Vermont. As long as the map is okay, I'm okay with forced merging. The one thing that we have to get rid of is these articles of agreement that are all around. So maybe we can get a sponsored amendment to do the foundation formula and to kill the articles of agreement. It takes care of all the problems.
Not all the
Any
problems,
other-
but some of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope something gets done.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, it is just critical that we bend this curve. Like you said, lower property taxes, and, we all want the best for our kids, but we also have to live within our means. And, I am concerned, Maggie, by looking at the two proposed, they couldn't be more different between the House and the Senate, and I don't even know how you reconcile the two. I always think about, well, you'll have a conference committee, but I look at those two proposals, they don't reconcile. They are totally different. They don't reconcile. So I just hope that cooler heads prevail and that people deliver, for folks in Vermont. Speaking to your amendment, Representative Booten, I'll have to respectfully disagree with Councilor Guston. What I have learned is to know what I don't know. And I've talked, when the governor proposed his executive order, when the same thing happened in the Senate last year to me, that's why I told you, don't feel so bad about it. I got over it, you can too. You speak to a lot of environmental scientists, and I always try to speak to people who are smarter than I am, so I don't have to look very far.
Same here.
It's really occurred to me in the past year or so that when you talk to environmental scientists, it's a little like talking to economists. There are a lot of theories about how you manage a healthy economy. And people are credentialed and they're smart. And there are folks who say a 10-foot buffer would be fine, and they're credentialed and smart. And there are people who say a 100-foot buffer is necessary, and there are folks everywhere in between. So I speak to people within the administration, environmental scientists within the administration. I was very comfortable with the proposal that you were putting forth, knowing full well that obviously we are a city that floods. So listen, I appreciate the effort. And I just have to say, look at the two of you, all grown up in your little suit and tie.
It's a new tie.
Mackerel.
Thank you very much. Yes. Oh, and Michael gave me this pin for St. Patrick's Day. It's very good.
I like this team. I've told the two of you that before. You running?
I'm running for re-election, yes.
What about you?
Absolutely.
Then I will support both of you. Because we've got a good team. You're different, and we're all different. Well, but how boring is it when we all agree? We don't learn anything, we don't debate. But what I can count on both of you for is representing Barre. What I can count on you for is if I call you on a Sunday morning or call you on a Sunday morning at 8:15, you pick up the phone and we have a conversation.
Well, I call you back an hour later. But
you pick up the phone most of the time. So thank you for that. I mean, as you're learning, compromising, passing good legislation can sometimes take time, and it can sometimes be very frustrating. But I don't worry a bit about whether or not the two of you are working hard and working in the best interest of every single day that you're in the State House. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know I'm going to upset some of my Republican friends for supporting you, but
Yeah, well.
look, I tell people this all the time, I'm the mayor of Barre. That's my job, to try to represent everyone. And when you have a good team like we have here in City Hall, we don't all see things the same either, but when you have a good team, you stick with it. And I think we've got a good team in Montpelier right now. So thank you. Sorry about the amendment. It happens. Happened to me, like I said, last year.
Hey, I'm not
At the
done.
last minute, that bill went up on the wall so fast.
I got
You heard the smack here in Barre.
I got the story from one of the senators that's really unfortunate. And it was very similar in what happened. I just don't understand. The thing that frustrates me the most is that I took the path that everybody says to take, which is no surprises and let everyone know in advance. And then I was punished for it. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Well,
It's a lesson
but
learned.
last year I could say, I got an executive order.
That's the spirit.
It's all good. Anything else, gentlemen? Been a long day for you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, council? Thank you. Appreciate your
Thank you all.
representation.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Are we welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but we're not obligated to?
No, we're kicking you out.
Council, we are at 8C on the agenda. This is the fiscal year 27 budget discussion. Mr. Manager, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor, and Christina's here to help me.
Come on, Christina.
So we have some updated numbers for you from last week. The expense line went up very, very slightly, 10,000 from last week. The increase in expenses also very slightly up, 7.47% increase. Year-to-year expenses up slightly from 7.40 last week. But we did get the increase in the amount to be raised by taxes down from 6.66 down to the target 5%, and we can talk about how we got there. And then just as a overall reminder, that blue box at the bottom, this funds everything. This funds the things that came in as priorities, the B's, Recreation Department. This funds the request from Aldrich Library, BADC, and the partnership. And it also now also funds Green Mountain Transit. So that I'll go through these slides really have the updates from last week. So we had proposed on the staff level $25,900 cut due to the our look at this and seeing that Waterbury in particular seemed to be paying much less than we were. Obviously GMT here was last week, they made a case. So after that presentation, after hearing the council feedback, we restored the full amount for GMT to $38,401 with the condition that I've shared with GMT that they start to make some progress towards equitable local share allocations. As I learned in follow-up with GMT's team, Waterbury is not paying any local share for their link services. So there is a ton of ridership in Waterbury that's not being captured by their local contribution. As I mentioned, it's not my job to advocate for Barrytown, but Barrytown pays twice what Waterbury pays, and I think we can be pretty confident Barrytown does not have the ridership of Waterbury. So there's something off, right? And I think that hopefully it got GMT's attention, but for the time being, I think I think it was appropriate to give them time to address it by restoring the full amount. Rental registry, the staff level, we had proposed $82,000 in additional revenue by increasing the fee from 60 to 100. Mayor had proposed going to 70. We just basically just to make it a nice round number, 75, and so that results in $31,000 in new revenue. So right around that same ballpark is where the numbers we're sharing with you lie today. The housing and homelessness liaison, we are now incorporating after the discussion last week that this is a state responsibility. We said let's build in the state revenue, and so that puts pressure on the state to come through with that revenue and also puts the pressure off of our tax rate as well. On project management, the mayor proposed last week a restoration of the associate planner. After some discussion, we had sort of talked about we've talked about how difficult it has been to recruit that position. So in order to not have resources that aren't creating help and assistance, we thought this was more useful and much more likely to help us and achieve those goals by allocating it towards consultant fees, contracted services. We're much more likely to be able to find a contractor or a consultant to do a very specific targeted project and use that $90,000 than we are to have an associate planner walk in the door and take that job. I think that position was added the year before I started. We never even got close to filling it. So love the idea of resources. As we talked about last week, this seemed to be a better place to get us some assistance right away. Some other adjustments, we increased the COSI fund interest income from $85,000 to $135,000. This was also a suggestion of the mayor. Also increased the general fund interest income from $40,000 to $65,000. And we added, after last week's approval of the Down Street pilot, an actual line item in the budget for that pilot income of $35,000 starting next fiscal year. One suggestion that had come in was to increase the traffic light maintenance. We're very sympathetic to that too. We've actually had underspending there, so we didn't think it was, it's not a matter really of the resources, it's a matter of getting that company in here to do work. And so.
What do you think, Councilor Spaulding? You said Hill Street.
There's a new problem at Hill Street.
Oh, good.
We'll talk about that later.
Fantastic. So that one, we're, like I said, we would love to be able to spend that money. We've actually had underspending in that line. And it's really not for lack of wanting to spend that money to fix some of these traffic light issues. It's really a matter of getting East Coast Signals in here to do the work.
Can I?
Sure.
Just a question. I mean, is there any way, I don't know, I mean, essentially traffic light sequencing it's just a computer. It just has to be programmed. Is there any way that we could train someone to?
That's what I'm thinking.
Seriously, even partner, I mean, I can't believe that we're the only municipality in Central Vermont that has this issue.
Yeah.
Is there any way that, maybe we could partner with another municipality or two municipalities or three and train someone, pick an employee either here or in Montpelier and say, look, we'll all invest in this position because it just, I'm sympathetic and what you're saying is exactly what's happening, but it doesn't stop the traffic from backing up to Orange Street on Hill Street.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So the great timing and great minds think alike. We actually had a training today for our DPW staff at Alumni Hall for some traffic light training, which interestingly they thought was useless, but we tell them how important it is. So we can train them to do some of the lighter minor repairs so that we don't, our goal is to train them so that we don't have to call East Coast Signals for small things. We're likely still in a position to have to call East Coast Signals for big fixes.
That's the company's name, East Coast Signals. Yeah. Well, that gives you a high degree of confidence, not Central Vermont Signals, not even Vermont Signals.
Yeah.
Nope, the whole East Coast.
The whole East Coast. So we actually, we're prioritizing training. We had them in the session today. And so the idea there is to train them to do, like I said, the things that they can, the smaller scale fixes, that we can have them do them in-house and not have to call the contractor out to do that. We're still likely to, getting, a source of ever-going frustrations, getting the last two security cameras installed, which they have to do also because it's on the traffic signals. Our guys would never be able to do that, but they could take care of some of the smaller tweaks that need to happen. Now, the other piece on the timing of the signals, usually that requires traffic studies. So there's some, so we adjust the light on, turn on Hill Street and Ayers by a couple of seconds. That impacts the lights on here on Prospect. And so that typically requires a little bit greater investment and time. Usually there's a small window we can play with where it doesn't create huge backlogs, but again, that's something that we probably want a little bit more data on before we start tweaking, because usually a tweak on one intersection requires a tweak elsewhere, which requires a tweak somewhere else. So it's not as simple a matter as adding 5 seconds to a light, because that typically just pushes the problem somewhere else. But yeah, we believe me, we share this frustration. We got this training today. We're going to keep training the staff to make sure that we can at least knock off some of the smaller scale issues, so that when East Coast does come in, they're really handling the big stuff that we can't do.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Is there like a contract with them, or they're just the only people that do it?
I believe they're the only ones in the region.
Okay, so if there's anybody listening and wants to open a business.
This is a great.
Hello, we need you to come and do this right now.
Great opportunity.
And you could probably just get the entire state of Vermont, maybe Massachusetts, maybe New Hampshire.
And there's our budget line right there that could be open. So, but yeah, it's a source of frustration for us as well. On the fund balance piece, so we talked about these numbers last week, as well. Our estimated cumulative fund balance is just north of 2.1 million. I'm showing you two amounts that we can retain as undesignated fund balance per charter. One is the current charter language, which is 5%. As we heard tonight, the 10% is on a pathway to being approved. So if we look at that 10%, that means we could retain approximately 1.5 million. Which leaves about 676,000 that we could then sort of allocate towards other uses if it's assigned. What we would propose is doing exactly that, designating the 1.4 as an undesignated fund balance that we can carry over. We would then, of the 676 that remains, we would recommend that at this point, absent any other tweaks to the budget, that we use an estimated $255,000 to meet the 5% target in the amount to be raised by taxes. And then the balance of that 676, or about 421, would remain. We would designate it assign it to the capital improvement fund. I think we all know our ongoing infrastructure needs, and so we can, I think that gives us some ability to do some of those projects that we talk about, storm basins, culverts, those types of things, and those are good resources for that. So that's where we are. I think we remain confident that we're on a good path. I think from our perspective, myself, Christina, and the team, we feel confident with these numbers. We like that the budget, made some significant savings and cuts, but also invested in things that the council and the community cared about. We're doing it, I think, in a financially responsible way. $255,000 is probably a little bit more fund balance than any one of us feel comfortable with, but it also hits the target that was established. So, did I leave anything out?
But we're at, but realistically, and I'm not opposed to having $1.4 million in the fund balance, but we lived with half that amount for years. Now, when the city flooded, it made it a bit of a challenge. When businesses ask me, how much working capital should we have? I usually tell them 2 months' expenses. So even at 1.4 million, that's not 2 months' expenses. That's short of that.
Yeah.
But like I said, we do have borrowing capacity, so I'm comfortable with the plan. I truly am. Because, look, I'd rather have $1.4 million in the city's savings account if we had some challenges than 700,000. 700,000 isn't even 1 month's expenses in the city. So I'm fine with that. The only thing I'd like to request and I'm comfortable with the 255, I'm comfortable with shifting the 421 to the capital fund, because we can always shift it back. If we had a special project, we can shift it back from capital, but what we can't do is once we designate a fund balance, you can't shift that around. If something happens and you deficit spend, that's why you have a fund balance, but you can't take it out of the fund balance once you put it in. Once you designate it, or once you call it an undesignated fund balance, that's kind of where the money stays. The only thing I'd like to suggest with the 421, don't have an issue with it, but I'd like at least 3 public hearings. Because people are always saying, well, we paid our taxes, you had extra money, and then you just sweep it somewhere else.
Yep.
No, we'll talk in detail about what the challenges are in the city, what the needs are. The fact that if we have it in the capital fund, we could use it for more paving if we wanted to, even though this budget increases the paving budget by an additional 33%. So we're going from 6 to 8, and hopefully next year we go from 8 to $1 million. But I'd just like to be able to say, look, we gave you because I can kind of predict what's going to happen. No one's going to show up, even though we give them the opportunity. And I want to be able to say, we gave you the opportunity 3 times to listen and to talk about it. Yes.
Can I just, a very brief clarifying question on that? By that, you mean giving people insight into sort of what is on our capital improvement list and what they would like to see the money spent on?
Yep. And what we're doing and why we're doing it. So we'll have it on the agenda 3 times. We have until June 30th to do that anyway. Once June 30th passes no, you got to have the audit. Do you have to have the audit? Yeah, you got to have the audit in hand. That's right.
Come back with a firm number once the audit.
So they'll just see it on the agenda so that we can say, we're giving you the opportunity to talk about it.
So, looks like there's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Vern, did you have a question?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to mention what Amanda said about the capital improvement list. Do we have a capital improvement plan? I think we had made one. Nicholas, could you speak to that just a little bit?
Yes, we do, and we've been refining it. I think that's going to come up here in the next couple weeks as well. It sort of travels alongside the budget at a slightly different clip because it doesn't have a warning requirement attached to it.
Thank you.
The current version of that is on the website.
It is posted, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Nicholas, how much of the match for the Sanders congressional spending are we still deficit on?
We ended up not having any because we ended up being able to fit enough of the scope of the project within the funds that were allocated. So the project had listed several areas for improvement. And so if we were able to fit some element of all those areas, that helped. And then we also used MERP. I'm looking at Jana, Municipal Energy Resiliency Program, to sort of complement that project. So it was $250 at the auditorium, $250 at City Hall, roughly. Yeah, within rounding to about each. And so what we did is we structured MERP to basically act as the match for Sander, so we didn't have to do any city or borrowing or any other type of match to it.
Wow.
And which reminds me, you had kindly sent an email, Bern, reminding the city of the March 30th deadline for the next round of congressional earmarks, and we will be submitting. So I just want to let you know that.
Oh, thank you. Anytime I see something that I think could be even a little helpful, I try to send it to you and send it to Nicholas, just because I know you have so much on your plates and so many things are always moving. I think that as citizens, we can keep our eyes out for things like that.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Just a quick question. Remind me again, what's the date that we have to approve the budget?
We have to warn it April 7th.
Okay.
Yep, so we've got plenty of time.
And my follow-up question to that is, I know we had a presentation, but I'm wondering where we are in reassessment and how that is going to line up, so people will have some semblance of what's going to happen before they vote, or no semblance of what's going to happen before they vote?
And that's, again, why I went through the exercise, and I'll likely go through it again, much to Nicholas's chagrin. I can tell you that if there was no reappraisal, the tax rate would be going up a tick less than 5%. Because there would be growth in the grand list. Not huge, what I use, Carol, like a percent and a half. It will tick up, it just does. Obviously not when the city flooded and we lost value in so much property, but now that value is coming back. I'm not even going to pretend to, I can't address what the appraisal is going to look like. I know anecdotally, being a guy that invests in real estate, I know what I think in terms of what sectors, when you look at commercial, versus office. So commercial, industrial, office, residential, and multifamily residential. When I look at those sectors, I know which ones anecdotally I think are doing better than others in terms of value, but I don't know. I'm not doing the appraisal. So, as soon as we can I'd rather get people good data based in fact than put pressure on the assessing team, have them rush it, and we look like a bunch of idiots.
No, I wasn't. I'm not suggesting that.
No.
That
I look like an idiot?
No, I wasn't
that.
suggested to rushing them. They just said early spring, and I was just curious.
As soon as we can comfortably get, we have talked about some sort of indication. We talked about the end of April at an earlier meeting. I don't know if I'll get you an update.
Yeah.
But it's more important, I think, that we have, really good information. I hope we do. It's not, if the timing is such that the preliminary assessments are not out until after we vote, that is absolutely not intentional. I mean, we're doing the best we can. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say I've really liked using the proxy of the amount to be raised by taxes. I think it gives us a really good sense of what we need. It tells us, it's focused on the number our budget is built on. That was really distracting me. I'm sorry. I think we're still probably beyond the warning date in terms of when there might be a better sense from the assessors about what the reappraisal is going to look like. But generally speaking, that number that we fixated on, which is the amount to be raised by taxes, I think even in future years is a really good place to focus on because it's tangible. I think it gives people an idea of, what that number realistically means is how much more in taxes we need to raise to support the budget. And if that is going up 5%, for many people, that's roughly going to be where their taxes are going to go up. And some will be a little bit above that, some will be a little bit below that. But that's, I think, the best proxy that we have. Because even, I'm talking to Carol in previous years when we would do the projected tax rate increase with other budgets outside of a reappraisal year, even we would qualify that as saying, this is smoke and mirrors, right? Even without a reappraisal in the background, that number was, best guesstimate was probably the most generous thing we could say about it. So I'm hopeful that this focus on the number to be raised by taxes gives us a really close approximation, and hopefully we'll be much closer when that tax rates do come out. Yeah.
And I showed you last week, I mean, there is a correlation. I mean, it's not like if the amount to be raised by taxes increases by 5%, your property tax rate is not going to increase by 7%. It's just not. The math doesn't work that way. So, what I've demonstrated is that it's usually a little lower because there's always some grand list growth. So I think that's, I'm fine focusing on that number, but people always ask the question, well, what do you think tax? Well, I can't tell you that because I don't have all of the math. Amy, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I missed the session where this was covered a couple months ago. Is the staffing for police, fire, and EMS held level?
Yes. I mean, besides the addition of the Bees program coming back, but that's through part-time officers. But the full-time headcount remains unchanged.
Okay, thank you.
And the really good news is that we will actually be at full staffing fairly soon. We have one trainee at the academy.
A couple, yeah.
And so for the first time, I mean, you should see a difference because it's been difficult to maintain the staffing levels. And for the first time in a very long time, we'll be at full staffing levels, and that'll be welcome. So, yes.
Budget question. So I was looking through the pilot, just the payments in general, and they just kind of look like they're all over the map, and no real correlation. And we're like starting back in fiscal year 24 audited, just the amount that it should be isn't what it is. So for example, like Capstone, the audit is 25,872, but the approved was 26,137, slight difference there, but fiscal year, the 25 unaudited was 19,889. Really more so like the Barre housing number was 74,992 audited in fiscal year 24, but dropped down significantly. Unaudited, or it was 40,000, audited or approved was 58,000. Then we go to this year, they're looking at 58,000, which is still a significant decrease from that 75-ish thousand for the pilot. And there's also some small discrepancies with the state pilot one, but more so I think the Barre housing one just doesn't, they're just kind of all over the map. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand how that's working. Hi, Carol. And I know you could answer those.
For the record, Carol Dawes, treasurer. The Barre Housing Authority is completely controlled by a HUD formula that takes into consideration what they collect for rent, what they have for approved expenses, and then we get a certain amount of money from them. We get a monthly payment from them and then a true-up at the end of the fiscal year. I believe that some of the discrepancy, and I know this is true with Barre Housing and with Capstone, was a timing thing as far as what year things were received and booked in.
Okay.
Because I actually looked through all of that to make sure that we were on track with where we were supposed to be.
Sure.
With all of those. The state sets the pilot amount that they pay us. They have reduced that in the last year, unfortunately. We hope that, as we heard our representatives talk about earlier, putting more money into the pilot program so that for communities we'll get they'll bring it back up to the level that we were at.
Okay.
Capstone has a formula for their two properties. They have the 20 Gable Place and the Brook Street School.
Yep.
That was renegotiated by us 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
I remember that.
And has an annual escalator in it. So that one, we have a pretty firm handle on what it needs to be. So I'm confident with the numbers that we have in the budget.
Sure. I appreciate that breakdown.
Thank you. Any other questions, council? So it kind of feels like we're closing in on it. Just had to push back $5 on that. I know, it's just the competitor in you.
Nice round number.
Nice round.
But the competitor in me says, well, I got more than I gave up. So,
we do it next year, it's a flat 25.
seriously, you're always very gracious. First of all, you listen to we all do, listen to what the community is telling us. Look, more paving, we get it. Public safety, we get it. So I think we've been responsive, and so I think we're closing in on this. And unless there's no strong objection from the council, I don't see any reason why we can't approve this budget next week. Great. And just get it behind. I mean, if you want to wait until do we have a meeting before the 7th?
We were going to meet again next week, but we could cancel next week's meeting too.
Don't say that so quickly. Well, we could. Well, why don't I leave that up to you? But what I'm not hearing, and Representative Booton said it best, no surprises, please. What I'm just not hearing, I'm not hearing any really dissension from the council. So I think you've got the support you need, and I think it's time to
Thank you.
put this together. So as far as next week's meeting goes, I'll, again, leave that at your discretion.
Perfect. Thank you. No, we appreciate the engagement. I think it's been a really good process, and we think it's great when people ask us questions about it and bring suggestions to it. That's what it's all about. So, I think we're happy with where it is, and we're happy. I think also happy that we're able to make some investments this year, which is important.
Perfect. Okay, council, we will move on to item 8D on the agenda. This is, thanks, Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will be adopting the policy to eliminate the acceptance of the U.S. Post Office postmarks for payment receipts. We've had numerous discussions. I don't know, Carol, for the benefit of those who might watch in the future. Yeah.
What I would ask is, if you look at the memo, and we've recycled the memo from last week, what I'm requesting is actually that the council authorize the clerk, treasurer, water, sewer billing, and delinquent collections offices to draft a policy related to the payment deadlines to be presented to the council for consideration and approval. You have seen what the policy will consist of, but it isn't really a policy yet, and I would like to create something that we can put on the website as a policy that we know exactly what the ins and outs will be, so.
Yep. Yeah, perfect. Any objection from the council?
It's not an objection, just to be clear. Question.
And not my usual question. At the last meeting, we had discussed the idea that 2-strike rule, 1 strike per bill. Where did we land on that?
We landed on, and I talked with staff about it afterwards, and we all agree that while that's a pain in the butt, it makes perfect sense. Because we do have people who pay one and not the other, and so it makes sense to give everybody the opportunity. And we've already talked about, I've started working on materials. We've talked about building a list of all the accounts so that we can really track who has had opportunities, second opportunities, how to create a postcard where we can send it to people, go, look, here's your first bite of the apple, here's the information. And, so yeah, we're moving forward on our end with stuff, so.
Thank you.
Councilor Sponley.
So I was never here on the council when you were.
Never here.
I was never on the council. I was never here. It's just a figment of your imagination. I was not here when you did your songs, but I think part of the thing should be that there's a song about this. So we could just add that to the motion.
To Bad Bunny, yeah.
To Bad Bunny would be fine, but it should probably be in English because I think most of our. I think you would appreciate this. I mean,
Well, we did talk about exposure. This is Music Month. So, you know, it would be appropriate under the circumstances. So a little public service announcement for you. So today, I mean, I wanted to check out the city webpage, the payment thing. I did my burn permit online. Now, when you do your burn permit online, which is only $20, it only costs you $20.30. So it's only a 30-cent fee to get your burn permit.
If you're using a credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, well, I know, but it was $1.75 if I ACH.
Right.
So,
There's a.
no, $30.75, $30.75. I know the answer to that one. But no, it was cool. And, you know, I was thinking about the budget at the same time and thinking, you know, when you look at Regroup, when you look at some of the things that we've done to make it easier for people to interact with City Hall, I'd love to see some of our capital budget go towards those types of things. Like maybe a program, you know, I was thinking, I bank with Community National Bank. When we move, we link to other accounts. Like if I want to pay a vendor, they ping them and then it links our accounts and I can send them money and there's no fee. Is there any such platform? So if people, I mean, I'm going to sign up for to let you all do it.
Right.
I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah.
But if there's other people who said, no, I don't want to pay the $1.50. I don't want to, I'm not paying the 3% definitely.
There are options for ACH, for payer authorized, initiated ACH payments into our account. We haven't explored them yet because it makes us just a little bit nervous about how to track a payment if all of a sudden money just shows up in our account.
Yeah.
But it is certainly something that we can explore. I do know that there are communities that have set up similar kinds of things. The question is just if it's payer initiated and all of a sudden $312.14 shows up as a deposit and we don't know where it came from. It's trying to figure that out and then, you know, backtrack to enter it in as a tax payment or as a water and sewer, whatever. At least if things go through the online payment portal, which you did with your burn permit, we capture all that information. Your name, your address, your phone number, an email address, so that if we need to, you know, get back in touch with you. I was dealing today with people who overpaid their bills and we had to get back in touch with them about issuing refunds and all this kind of stuff. By having that additional information, it's very helpful.
Gotcha.
But it does also come with a fee to the user. So, so we can certainly explore what there might be for other options.
Well, even with the, you know, like the rental registry program, I mean, everything now, back in the old days, remember the Secretary of State, you actually used to submit a paper form on an annual basis. You don't do that anymore. You get an email notification, you have to give them an email account, and for all of your corporations or LLCs, you get an email, and you just know to respond to it once a year. And if we could do that, you know, if we could just embrace that technology, I thought about the rental registry, you know, the discussion we had about parking tickets.
And people do make payments for rental registry. All of the planning and permitting department, all of their fees are available to be paid through the online.
Right, but not the actual
not the
rental
form
registry
itself.
form
No.
itself. And that's where I was going with the technology.
Yeah.
We talk about capacity. We just built, you know, 90,000 into the budget, because we know that we need more human capacity. Well, if we can gain that capacity by spending, let's say, $100,000 on a platform that will allow the rental registry program to be totally online and our folks aren't having to chase things around, well, we're making a one-time payment of $100,000 and maybe saving $50,000 in staff time forever. So I just got thinking about that, thinking there's got to be, you know, you showed it with the regroup program. I mean, that worked. And now you just do it. Everybody signed up and we can communicate. We could do the same thing in other areas of the city, and I think we'd be better off long-term for it.
Yeah, I mean, we have, a dog license is a perfect example. They're still a paper commodity. But people can make payment online through the online payment portal. But then we ask them to email us a scan of the rabies certificate, because we have to have that on file.
Right.
And then we process it and we mail them a hard copy of the license, because we have to send them the license and the tag. Is there a way to set it up where somebody could data enter all that information, maybe upload the rabies certificate, because we're required by statute to get it. And then, maybe there's a way to look at all those things that we do right now and find smoother ways to make them happen.
Well, they're there. I mean, we just, my CPE, I have got to, renew my license and.
We also know what the state spends on developing these online systems.
Yeah.
How successful they are.
But my point is simply, I think if we really take a hard look at some of these things that are core functions and how much revenue we're foregoing, on the rental registry program alone. There are people who just don't pay it. They just don't bother. And we don't have a really efficient way to bother them other than a human being. So.
And things have transitioned. Liquor licenses is a perfect example.
Exactly.
5 years ago, it was all paper.
Right.
The state still refuses, are you still on the liquor control board? Because now I'm going to complain to you.
I actually stepped down last year.
Because the state refuses to collect the municipal portion on behalf of the towns and then send the money to us electronically, which they could easily do.
Yep.
We have to go out and beat up on people to get them to bring in a check for their local share of the liquor license. But everything else has become electronic with regards to, everything from the renewal notices to the payment to the issuance of the license, everything. So, I mean, there certainly are systems out there that are successful, and we can do some research.
Perfect. Anything else, council? Okay, so develop your policy, get it in. And, okay, council, we are at 8E on the agenda. And this is the flood resiliency plan. I believe you have an update for us.
This one's not me.
And I have, it'll be a brief update. And it's actually, I think, a good example of how the flood resiliency plan is supposed to work. So the update this week is on the elevation grants. This was $900,000 from the state for up to 3 elevations. We've selected the properties. I think, as you recall, we had about a dozen or so intakes. We went through a tiering process, and we've selected the properties that will move forward. The reason this is a good example for the way the flood resiliency plan is supposed to work is that we had fallen behind on it. And looking at my updates of things that had to come up, I'm like, oh God, I got to do something on this plan 2 weeks ago. And so we are in the process of speaking. It's also a good connection to that 90,000 in the budget. We're speaking to Jim Levinsky, who this is a really good targeted, narrow program with sort of boxed in, doesn't sort of bleed into other program areas. And so we're going to do some project management, go into project management with Jim Levinsky to handle these grants for us. The next steps are to do MOUs with the property owners. One thing about this grant program is that the grant is limited to $300,000 total per project. And so if one costs $270, the other one costs $330, it doesn't matter. We're limited to $300,000 total. But it also pays only for the elevation. So to the extent that there's any, tangential plumbing work or siding work that needs to happen, that has to come out of pocket. And I think we're at a little bit of an advantage here in that Montpelier, I think they only had 1 elevation with this program. They went first. We've taken a lot of their templates and run with it. So I think our process, and we have the benefit of, Josh Jerome, who now works at BADC, who really got this started for Montpelier, can really help us sort of work out the things that he wishes he had done differently. So I think we're really hopeful that we'll get these, done smoothly. we've talked to Jim, who's received this information from us to sort of take this project on. This grant did have deadline of December 31, 2026, but we have proactively talked to the state. We talked to the state earlier this year just because we knew that it was going to be tight, and they said, just make progress, get contacts, you'll be okay. So that is not a worry at this point. But anyway, so the update really is, this was a good example of realizing this is something that we've committed to doing. This is something I have to give an update on. I have to make sure we're making progress. So we did. Jim is going to be sort of a good test case for us to run this project management. And we have this benefit of having our neighboring municipality having gone first. And so we have a lot of the things we need in hand. We have their template MOUs. We have their template RFPs. So once we have Jim on board, this is going to start to go a lot faster. And so, so that's the update. I didn't have wasn't able to put anything on paper for presentation, but like I said, I was, I think a good example of why this is an important plan and how it can lead to things getting done. So that's it for me.
Anything you want to add?
Nothing to add necessarily, just a follow-up question for the manager. Once we sort of get to the other end of this process, and I realize we're looking at like years, potentially, given, as you said, that it's not terribly common, you've had to look elsewhere for templates, I think it would be tremendously useful, and part of what Representative Wazisak said earlier is that Barre is continually at the cutting edge of these things to produce a sort of guide to how we did it, possibly do some like tours of the sites once they are elevated so that folks can see what it actually looks like in reality, to have done this for a house and to make the improvements. So I'd love to see that.
We'd be happy to do that. I think, like I said, there's been a lot of mutual aid as in this flood recovery. So to the extent we can help others, we're happy to do it. And just like we're trying to not reinvent the wheel where we can, and where we can help people sort of do that same thing, we're happy to.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, Council, we will move on to item 8F on the agenda. This is setting the clerk compensation. As you may recall, Council had an executive session and then a discussion with the clerk regarding her salary. One thing I did learn is that, I knew you were assistant clerk, but I never realized that one of the reasons that you stepped up was because no one else wasn't stepping up. And you didn't want to see the city suffer, so I appreciate that. What we heard from virtually everyone is how competent you are, how much your confidence, your professional confidence has grown over the last year, and that's an absolute compliment. That quite simply, you hit the ground running, and you're making consistent progress, and I certainly see that. So in short, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And so what the council discussed, we also discussed your pay level as compared to others within the office, and we agreed with your overall sentiment that you presented to the council. So the council agreed to set your compensation at the equivalent of $60,320 annually. And then obviously, future increases. That increase, it was sort of a new process for you, a new process for the council. So we had that discussion in executive session. Going forward, we'll have it in open session.
Okay.
And we'll build from that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Is that consistent? Anything else that any councilors would want to add?
Glad to have you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep. It shows you're taking a lot of pride in your work, and what I've really seen, Cheryl, is just you having the confidence in yourself that you deserve. And I see you doing that. So it's about time, Cheryl. But great job. So council, a motion to set the clerk's salary at $60,320 would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Take your pick on the second. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, thank you very much, Cheryl. We appreciate you. Roundtable, Councilor Spalding. Oh, I'm sorry, upcoming business. I skipped right over that. So I think you're really going to enjoy when we have the crime statistics presentation. I think it's really going to be eye-opening. And I got to tell you, it was for me. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's absolutely incredible how this group can drill down into certain numbers. You know, for example, individuals, no one will, you know, we had the benefit of names, and some of which were very familiar to law enforcement. But I'll just say this, what struck me is what I asked them to do is they showed us in our meeting the top 20 individuals in terms of here are the most frequent points of contact with law enforcement. Here are your top 20. What I asked them to prepare for, and it was eye-opening to say the least, even though we hear about it consistently, it was a real surprise to me. What I asked them to prepare is they said, well, I'd like to take the next 100 and compare them to the top 20. Then I'd like to take the next 400 and compare them to the top 20. And I got a feeling I know what the answer is going to be, but I want to see it. Obviously, I want to see hard data. And maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe the answer isn't at all what I think it's going to be. But this, I think you're going to find the information very useful. I think we're going to find it very useful in terms of policy making. So I'm going to be looking forward to that. Anything else? Yes.
I wonder if last week we were talking about the budget, we were talking about paving, and we talked about potentially having a session where we just talk about paving.
Yep.
And I wonder if we could do that sometime soon, because I think people are really feeling it.
Yeah, I think
they've been feeling it.
Our goal was, and I'm thinking about the sequencing, if we were going to try to meet, one of the things we were going to talk about next week was about whether we add the additional funding towards the paving. We've been we talked today with TJ and Brian, and so we have a plan to present to you about that for additional funding. That'll be the next meeting, whether it's next week or the 7th. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Perfect. Anything else, Council? Then we will move on to roundtable. Councilor Spalding.
I wanted to tell you about Millstone Trails is sponsoring a screening of a film called Best Day Ever. It's about adaptive mountain bike riders, and it's going to be at the Barre Social Club on April 1st, and the proceeds benefit the Kelly Brush Foundation and Adaptive Trail Building at Millstone. The ticket price is by donation, so basically anyone, whatever you can afford, you can pay. I would just go to Millstone website and I think you can buy a ticket, but they're doing some good things, and I would encourage you to attend if you can. It's at the Barre Social Club, so local and easy.
Councilor Bergeron.
Well, I think I had a deja vu tonight. I was on the council 30 years ago when we set the 3-foot nudity rule.
It's his fault.
It's all my fault.
It's his fault.
I was here. Councilor Guston.
Pass. I don't know if I can follow that, first of all. I think most of you know I'm a serious gardener, and I just want to alert other serious gardeners to an opportunity that the Aldrich Public Library is putting together. Charlie Nardozzi, who is a gardening resource and a wonderful guy, is coming to the Aldrich on April 25th. It's a Saturday. I don't think that I've seen an actual time yet for that. But just put that on your calendar if you're interested in gardens and gardening. He's wonderful, and that would be a lot of fun.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
I will have to say that the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee is doing lots of great work. They've got some good folk on there. They had a meeting Friday evening, a special meeting because it was not their regular time. And they are working on the Easter egg hunt in conjunction with Barre Town. So a nice two-city town collaboration, and it's going to be fun. So.
Fantastic. So just wanted to make everyone aware that I sit on the advisory board of the Vermont Immigration Legal Defense Fund, and this Thursday, in a couple of days, Front Porch Forum has graciously offered to, across the state, every Front Porch Forum, kind of hosting a fundraiser for the Vermont Immigration Legal Defense Fund. We've raised around $850,000 to date, and our goal was $1 million. And I mean, you all see the need out there, so just spread the word to your friends. It's a Front Porch Forum is a great platform, and so we're really hopeful that our exposure on Front Porch Forum on Thursday will push the fund over $1 million, which is where we'd like to be. So with that, council, if there's nothing else, I don't believe we need an executive session. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.